Here's three problems that almost every self-improvement book has in common. The first is that they stress small changes. Essentially, the self-improvement books would argue, if you scroll for 5 minutes less every day, that's gonna compound because 5 minutes every day equals like this many books over this many years and so on and so on. The thing is, it does not compound because if you want to change your life, you actually have to change your life. You can't just pretend that you've changed your life because you scrolled for 5 minutes less every day. And by the way, that doesn't even work because no one says, well, yesterday I've scrolled for 3 hours and 5 minutes, therefore today I will scroll for 5 minutes less and that's 3 hours. It doesn't work like that because if you've scrolled for 3 hours, how would you know that you've scrolled for 3 hours without looking on the clock? And when you look at the clock, you may as well just not scroll because obviously you then have enough self-awareness to understand how much time you're wasting, right? In Christianity, there's this concept of repentance, and basically every other religion has it as well. A lot of people don't know what repentance is or means. Repentance literally means turning around. It means changing your ways by 180 degrees. Repentance does not mean, yeah, you become a bit better here and there, you change 5% here, 5% there, and that's how you're gonna ascend. No. Repentance is you change completely. You change everything. Your actions, your thoughts, your orientations, your environment. Everything must change if you want to change your life. I can tell this from personal experience. I know many people who tried to change but failed because they didn't actually change. And the people who were successful at overcoming their vices did so because they changed everything about their lives, right? And so you can't just change a little bit because not only is that not going to do much, but also other forces in your life are going to make sure that you lose that little bit of progress. Because, for instance, if your goal is to scroll for 5 minutes less every day, then chances are you will never reach it because it is just easy to keep scrolling. Whereas if you have the goal that you never want to scroll again, then you approach it differently. And then your idea may be to just not have internet at home. And when you don't have internet at home, of course, it becomes a lot easier. And if you know, a lot of people keep struggling and keep fighting. But I have just eliminated basically every temptation. And so I get to live a peaceful life because simply I don't have to fight against myself. I just see that there are no temptations. So I don't suffer as much and I live a better life. And on top of that, I am more disciplined because I do less vices. But actually, I'm not more disciplined. It is just that I have no way to be tempted. Like the main prayer in Christianity contains the line, God, forgive us our trespasses and those who trespass us, deliver us from evil and show us your ways, and deliver us from temptation. It's something in that order. And given that it contains the line, deliver us from temptation, why should you tempt yourself? Which is what you are doing when you don't completely change your life, but change it a little bit. When you tell yourself that you want to watch a little bit less porn instead of completely eliminating it. Why should you tempt yourself all the time and pretend that you're making progress? Like, you don't need devils in your life if you turn your life yourself into hell by constantly tempting yourself. And it's not like you gain anything. If you constantly tempt yourself, you don't become stronger. You don't become more peaceful. You don't become more wise. You just become more annoyed. You just have to struggle more and you lose so much focus doing so. And so, in some sense, it would just be better if you didn't think about these things. But if you, of course, I will not give you this advice, but in this case, it would actually be better if you just scroll for 2 hours every day rather than waste so much willpower trying to resist it. Of course, it is better if you don't scroll at all, because I don't scroll and I can tell you my life is paradise. And I have scrolled in the past and quite a lot, and I can also tell you it sucks. But if you have the option between scrolling and not caring about it and scrolling and trying to quit, but you constantly keep tempting yourself, it is better to scroll. But of course, the best option is to just completely eliminate it, right? But of course, the books say, well, just change a little bit, 1% better every day, and that's how you're gonna ascend. No. 1% better every day does not work. Because if you actually want to change your life, guess what? You have to change your life. You have to change everything about it. The second fundamental mistake or problem with self-improvement books is that they miss the big and obvious decisions by focusing on the small improvements. Like, once again, let me give you an example from my personal life. If your goal is to mock everyone in your school by using grades, which is essentially how much you mock, because money reflects your material circumstances, hot blondes reflect your social realities, but grades kind of reflect nothing except how much you mock in compared to other students. And so if your goal is to intellectually mock at school and to write exams so that others know that you are a real school mogger, then you may think that you just need to study better, that you need to develop systems and habits for studying, that you need to optimize and maximize your brain power, memory, sleep, exercise, and all these things so that you become as intelligent as possible, so that you can then mock everyone in the exams, so that the university and your employer know that you're a real smart one. You could, of course, do that, or you can just spend 3 hours writing an email that you want to skip a grade, which is exactly what I had done. And so I finished school not at 18, but at 16, which means I got to live a year longer than everyone else. And you might ask, why is that? Why 16 and 18, 2 years? Well, it's because of the dates, they align this way. So I get to say that I finished high school at 16 years old, even though I turned 17 a few days later. But I get to say it because of how the exam dates and my birthday have been. So now I get to say it, even though I just wrote an email which took 3 hours. And that's how I got to save myself from a year of effortful struggle, which, by the way, is useless. And all the arguments like, but you're very social at school and stuff like that. Well, you can also be social at uni, so that's invalid. Or, but you have to study so much because school is so hard. That's invalid as well, because I didn't have to study anything and I skipped the 9th grade. The only thing that I had to know from the 9th grade was the quadratic formula, like the one minus p divided by 2 plus minus this one squared minus q. This is the only thing that I had to know. And even that, I only learned this in 12th grade before the final exams. So I missed nothing. And also then had a perfect high school diploma, by the way. So this whole idea that you focus on these systems and then your life is going to get better does not work. You have to focus on the big and massive leaps forward. And you may be saying, well, but I can do both. I can both focus on the big and obvious things and also work on the small things in the meantime. You can't. Because when your attention is already gone towards the small things, it won't even cross your mind to look at the big things. So for instance, if you study all day, it won't even cross your mind that you could just not study and instead write this email. It won't even cross your mind, because if you operate from studying and I'm going to study so much, I'm going to get tired of studying, then it won't occur to you to just not study and to do this instead, right? Because your attention is very finite, especially if you already use basically all of it. And now the third problem with basically all self-improvement books is that there is a limit as to what type of knowledge can be transferred by books. No one expects to learn piano from reading a book. No one expects to learn to drive the car from a book. No one expects to learn how to cut onions from a book. And yet, many people expect that they learn discipline, willpower, purpose, and all these concepts from a book. Of course, a lot of these concepts are very abstract, and so they can be learned from a book. However, there is still a limit as to what kind of knowledge and what amount of knowledge and what quality of knowledge can be transferred by books. This is why, after a while, they all sound exactly the same, because you've probably reached the plateau where there are no more combinations of words that can teach you something, but where the only progress to be made lies within the actions that you must take, or that you especially are unwilling to take. There is the progress after a certain point. You may, of course, still continue to read the books to stay away from vices and to remind yourself of virtuous ways. But otherwise, the books are all the same after a while, because there is a limit what kind of knowledge can be transferred by books. And of course, a lot of that knowledge is very abstract and can be transferred. But at a certain point, only knowledge that you gain yourself. At a certain point, you actually have to start doing the things that you read about, right? And so, the three main problems with self-improvement books are the following. Number one, they focus on the small things too much. But if you have to change your life, you actually have to change your life. You don't just have to pretend. The second problem is that by focusing on the small things, they neglect the big things. But a lot of the time, the progress lies not within systems and habits, but within singular actions that you can take that then have massive return on investment. And the third problem is that after a while, they all are kind of similar, because there is a limit as to what kind of knowledge can be transferred by books. And the potential then lies within taking action, right? And so, my name is Kille. My goal is to inspire 10,000 good decisions. And if this video helped you, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.